let's get started. I promised to come in today because I wanted to work with you about reconnecting with that natural, easy, overflowing self love that is meant for you and is there for you and is your birthright because it's what you are. And I came in to work with you with this today because I see so many, especially seekers, really get tangled up about this, right? And then because they get tangled up about it, get even more frustrated and even more confused because they start to get this feeling that's like, well, I've been doing everything right, in whatever way, right? So I've done things right in the physical world. I did what the world told me was supposed to work for me and make me happy. I accomplished certain things, and yet, why am I still not happy? Or why do I still not have that overflowing natural love for myself? And most of them have then gone to the next step too that says, well, I've done everything right in the spiritual world. I've meditated and I've gone on my silent retreats and I've, whatever it might be from person to person, read all the books. And so they start to feel even worse about the fact that they're not in touch with and not tapped into this natural deep love and peace because the expectations start to pile up. All right. So today, let's unravel that and get you shifted into that natural self love that's always available for you. All right. So the first thing that we need to do, we're going to kind of count down backwards, right, to the biggest thing. So one of the big reasons that you haven't felt as connected as you'd like to be with this self love is a misunderstanding of the word love in the first place and of the energy of love in the first place. So, love gets thrown around like crazy everywhere in the world, typically being used as to refer to the emotion love, right? So, love that has an opposite, love that more or less stands for this thing is my very, very favorite, right? The kind of love that you could love something 1 minute and then not love it anymore the next minute, or right? So that love that's in duality, that's polarized with love and hate. So that's not the love I'm talking about. Anytime you hear me talking about love, it is just an incredibly powerful energy that is all embracing, all encompassing, knows no bounds, and has no opposite. So, the reason this becomes a challenge for people, that misunderstanding of love in the first place, is if you're trying to love yourself through that emotion love, through that love that's in duality, well, then guess what's always waiting on the other side? At any moment, you can judge yourself, you can reject yourself, you can hate yourself. So it becomes this constant treadmill of looking to keep, or like if you've ever played with magnets and, it can flip from one polarity to the other. So you end up in this struggle to just keep it flipped one way and not the other, right? So that's the first challenge that we've got to go past, is recognizing what love is really about, and that love doesn't need you to do something for love to love, right? So love, the emotion, is always pinned to something, it's attached to something, it's conditional. But love just loves. It just is love, and it is your very nature. So that brings us right into that second reason, which is a misunderstanding about being love versus doing love. And again, this is related. So even once you understand what love really is, there can still be kind of a default leftover expectation that your mind is going to do it, that your ego is going to do it, right? That loving yourself is some kind of a task that needs to be done enough, right? That needs to be accomplished. That this love is something that your mind and your ego have to find a way to generate or manufacture all the time. And what might seem like the bad news to you, but is also really the good news, is forget it. Your mind and your ego aren't going to do it. Your mind and your ego are not going to love you the way you would like to be loved. No matter how hard you try, no matter how many practices you do, no matter how much self-care you try to engage in, your mind and your ego are not capable of, on their own, creating or generating the kind of love that we're talking about. Okay? So when you are asking them to, it's going to be a road that always leads to frustration, because in the background, there's always waiting, like I said, that judgment, that rejection, all of those conditions, all of those prerequisites, all of those hoops that, based on whatever that conglomeration of conditioning that has been accumulated in your mind and your ego is, you're going to have, according to that, all of the things that you have to fulfill first in order to really experience that love. All right. And then there's going to be this struggle also with feeling that you have to maintain it somehow. And again, if it's left to the responsibility of your mind and your ego to maintain this love, it's just not going to, because the mind and the ego are built in duality. All right. They understand opposites. They understand what I talked about in the first point, that emotion love that has an opposite and that goes back and forth. All right. So that's not what it's about. Now, the good news is what you can do, well, I say do, but you can be the love that you naturally are. So it's a matter of just stepping back and letting yourself tap into that. Now, I will say first that your mind has probably worked really, really hard for years to try to accomplish this for you. All right. So one of the first things we're going to do is really bring the mind into an embrace that says, you know what? Thank you. Thank you. I love you. You did the best you could, trying to accomplish a task that isn't even possible for you, considering the structure that you're built on. All right. So your mind has just been working so hard to try to please you and try to create and generate this love, because guess what your mind wants also? To be loved. To be loved. That's it. So every time, so this is just kind of a side note for a minute, guys. A lot of you, I hear from you about, I have so much mind chatter and I don't know how to calm it down and I don't know what to do. You know what? You know why your mind is out with its clipboard all the time? It wants to do right by you. It wants to prove itself to you. It wants to do everything right and keep you safe so that it's going to be loved. All right. So you have the power in any moment, in every moment, to completely circumvent that whole cascade of things and let your mind know right away, you know what, I love you. And you are already loved. And to let yourself rest in that all-encompassing, all-embracing, unconditional, boundless love with no opposite that's always available. So when that's always on offer, when that's always how you meet your mind, when that's the relationship that you step into with your mind, then this whole battle of, mind, shut up. No, I have this we want to worry about. No, be quiet or I'm going to tie you to a chair. That, that just disappears on its own. Okay. So that brings us to really the top thing that has been a challenge, which is it's just easier than you've been led to believe. It's just easier than you've ever thought that it was. All right. It's just not as much of a task as you've set it out to be. And the more that you set it out to be a task, and the more that you think it's difficult, it sets up sort of a cycle of evidence that builds on itself, right? So let's say you go and do a bunch of things, you really give it your all to do your self-care and to take a class about loving yourself and to, you name it, right? And you make a pledge to yourself that you're not going to judge yourself anymore. And you put a rubber band on your wrist that you're going to snap whenever I don't know, whatever you've tried before. And so what happens is then when all of that effort and force of will doesn't result in what you were looking for, the evidence that gets accumulated consciously and subconsciously is, oh, okay, so that much effort didn't do it. So it actually takes more than that, right? So you get started believing, and eventually the bar gets so insanely high that part of you just goes, you know what? I don't know. I don't know that this is even possible or even available, right? Because that cycle goes and goes and goes until you believe that to have the kind of transcendent peace and the kind of naturally overflowing love that you're looking for, if all of these gargantuan efforts that you've already done haven't resulted in it, then your mind just goes, I don't know, live in a cave, something, blast yourself into space. I don't know what would be big enough to work, to do this, okay? So the problem with that is that it's actually completely backwards. And the truth of the love that you're looking for is a jillion times easier and smoother and more joyful and more natural to you than your mind has any way to imagine. Not in the current world that we live in, right? Because it's just bombarded with structures and information that say the opposite, that set up the idea that what's difficult is what's valuable, that the only way to connect with anything that you really want is through suffering, hard work, sacrifice, all of those things. All right. So, and it's incredibly pervasive. But the truth is, because that love is the fabric of your very existence, because that love is what you are, it's closer than you've ever imagined. And it's right under your nose. And there's absolutely nothing that can ever prevent you having access to it. Nothing, nothing, nothing. There's no hoop you have to jump through. There's nothing you have to do to earn it, okay? Including all the spiritual things that you've built up. So you don't even have to never judge yourself in order to live in that love. You don't even have to always feel like love and light and namaste and that you like everything, to always have access to that love and peace. Okay? So that's our starting point. Let me check in and see what people are saying, if you have questions. And we'll go from there and we'll start to tap into this. All right, so I've just got hi, hi. All right, everyone's telling me hi. Hi. Hi, Katrina, and hi, Branda, and hi, Michael. So let's take a few nice deep breaths. And if you have a question, if you have something in particular that you tend to get hung up about with your self-love, or something where you tend to move into judgment or anything like that, drop it in the comments. Let me know. Oh, hi, Mark. Let me know what that is, because listen, it's not just going to answer your question. Every time, and I tell this to groups all the time when I'm working with groups, but this is true in any situation, including this one. When you ask a question, it's not just for you. There are going to be other people listening that brings them exactly what they need as well. Okay? So never feel uncertain or shy about dropping a question or letting me know what it is that your challenge is with self-love, because it lets me get much more specific with you, which is then for you and for everybody else who that connects with. Okay? And because there's no wrong, there's no way to do it wrong. Okay? Number one, I've probably already heard it before. Number two, even if I haven't heard it before, it completely doesn't matter. One of the whole points of getting together with you guys, and one of the strengths that I bring to you, is that it's all embraced. It's all embraced. So if there's anything that you have judged yourself about on this topic, feel free. All right, so I've got one. I feel like love is just out of reach, and I have, okay, well then the comment cuts off. Maybe check Michael, and I'll start addressing the out of reach, and then you can type the rest of what your comment was. Okay, so let's start with that, the just out of reach, and this taps into a lot of things all over the place with the way so many people experience then in a broader way that energy of just out of reach and that energy of almost, right? So this applies not just to self-love, this applies to if almost your finances are how you would like them to be, or you start new projects but you don't quite bring them to fruition, or you don't quite complete them, or your health gets pretty good but then there's always some nagging issue, right? So this will handle all of that. Okay, so now I see the rest of it. I feel like love is just out of reach and I have to do more to receive it. Exactly. That's just what the point of addressing all this is. So everyone listening, nice deep breath. And bring your attention to that whole concept, that feeling of separation where there's you and then there's love and they're separate, and there's these, things that you have to do to get there. So feel into that, and it's going to be painful, and that's okay, because pain is not what you believe that it is. Pain is also offering you love at the very center of it. So dive into the center of that pain, the pain that comes with, and dive into the center of everything that you feel about that separation. Let yourself feel it completely. Everything that you feel about being separate from love, believing that you're separate from love. So just feel into that as if that's the only thing that's real for you. Notice what shows up. Notice what ideas arise. Notice how it feels in your body. Notice what you feel in your whole energy system. When all of your attention is on that big, just solid wall between you and love. There you go. And just keep getting closer to it. No matter what you feel, no matter if it's painful, just keep diving right into the center of it, into everything that goes with that idea of separation between you and love, which again gives rise to that idea that there's something you have to do first, right? So just keep going with just openness and curiosity, moving into the center of that pain, into the center of that separation, to just see what you notice, just very lightly. Being open to notice what's actually there, what's at the center of that feeling of separation. Check and see if there's love present that you hadn't noticed. Check and see if there's love present that you just hadn't been aware of before. Nice deep breath right into the center of your heart. And just be open to noticing. Okay, so keep going with that. Drop me a comment to let me know what you noticed. And I'm going to see what else I see. Okay, I also see, I got the message that having it all be hard and difficult was the righteous way. Yeah. My heart says ease is the way, and yet I have big judgments about this. Okay, good. So also I have that what you discovered is much love and peace. Exactly. So that's the thing, and that's why you always have access to it. So this idea, so I'm going to address one thing at a time. This idea has been set up just, again, incredibly pervasively, especially once you get going down a spiritual path, right? Is that love is it, And anger isn't it. Shame isn't it. Fear isn't it. Sadness isn't it. All of that is, judgment isn't it. And so that what you've got to find a way to eradicate all of that so that then you get more love. And again, that's just an incredibly limited view. It's still based in duality, it's still based in separation. The truth is, if you get open and curious enough and go close enough to your fear, close enough to your anger, close enough to your shame, close enough to your judgment, close enough even to lack itself, separation itself, any of those things, and you go there with curiosity, you go there with just a genuine ease and openness to find out what it's offering you that you hadn't noticed, you're always going to find love and peace at the center. Just like Augustine said, love and peace. Okay? So, all right. So I'm going to come back to the thing about the righteousness as well. Let me first say, okay, my experience is numbness. Can't feel love, but don't feel pain either. Just nothing, not good, not bad. Okay, great. So that nothingness, that is something that you feel. That's the next thing that you feel. So get curious about the nothingness. Okay? So, and everybody who feels this, in addition to the person who wrote the comment about the numbness, dive into it, get really curious about that. You just want to be so intimate with it. You want to know everything about it. Go closer to the numbness, go to the center of the numbness, dive into that numbness to find out what it's offering you. Find out what it feels like. What you feel in your body, what arises. What is that numbness offering you that you just hadn't been aware of, that you hadn't noticed before? See if you're open and willing to notice that. And just connect with your breath through all of it. Give your breath a clear pathway through your whole body. Take your breath with you into the center of the numbness. And be willing to go there, even if it's going to mean that you don't like what you find at the center of it. It's this genuine curiosity that says, you know what? I just have to know. I have to get closer to it. I have to have this complete oneness and intimacy with it to find out. Okay, good. So I've got a comment. Rage, anger, and disappointment is in the center of the numbness. Perfect. So now we're past just that veil of the numbness. So now the rage and the anger and the disappointment, again, the subconscious sort of habitual thing is to try to keep some distance from those, right? So are you willing to get really curious, get really open, get closer to them? So go closer to the rage, closer to the anger, closer to the disappointment. Again, giving your breath a clear path through your whole body so that you're open to everything that arises physically, that arises in your thoughts, that arises in your energy system, and just be willing to dive through the center of that rage, through that anger, to do what you've never done before, to walk up to it like you've never heard of it before, like you've never known anger, and go, oh, what is this feeling? What is this? I want to know it. I want to get closer to it. I'm so curious to know what's there. What is it offering me? So again, from that place, just diving through the center of the rage, through the center of the anger, just to find out, just because you haven't ever before really merged with it, really understood that oneness and intimacy with it, and really just given it the open space to reveal itself to you, given it the opportunity to show you what it's really made of, to show you what you're made of. to show you that little compressed seed of something that you hadn't been aware of, but you had never gotten close enough to let it unfold itself in front of you because you were always just running around the edges of the anger, afraid of the anger and judging the anger and avoiding the anger. And meanwhile, there's been something at the center of it that's waiting for you. All right, so let's see. I've got feedback here. Numbness melted, got a smile on my face. The message that came through was relax about life. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Beautiful. Okay, so wherever each of you are in this process, just keep going. All right, there's a lot unfolding for everyone right now. So we're just going to keep that moving. And I'm going to address this idea that came up earlier of difficulty being the righteous way, right? So, because again, this is another thing that is common for, the kind of people that end up on a spiritual path that they're, they want to be loving. They want to be compassionate. They are compassionate. Every single person that I encounter and work with are just incredible, incredible, amazing people who are insanely loving. Now, are they also frequently cluttered up with a bunch of ideas and conditioning and whatever from the world? Of course, of course. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. So let's address that. And as we address this, it's going to give you a template for a new way that you can be in relationship with these kinds of beliefs when you see them show up. Okay? So the example here, the belief is that the difficult way is the righteous way. Okay? That for it to be too, so the flip side of that is that if things are too easy, that you're kind of bad if they're too easy, right? Instead of what I'm telling you, which is that that's your natural way. So everyone, nice deep breath all together. And the first thing is to notice, well, actually the person commenting said already recognized some of the results of that belief, right? So a result of that belief is then judging yourself. So that when it's easy, having judgment and being like, it's not how it's supposed to be. Okay, so let's go to the other side. Let's go to the root of that belief. And again, the way to get to the root of it is to first let the belief be in front of you without trying to change it, without trying to undo it, without, taking your mental understanding that you have from teachings or from past experiences or whatever that says, oh yeah, that belief is bullshit. I don't need it. Okay. So we're just going to take the belief face value as it is and get curious about it. Go closer to it, investigate it. All right. So this belief that what's difficult is righteous and what's easy is bad. Just let it come in front of you as if it was true. And notice that just allowing yourself to be present with it and be there with it without flinching, without judging it and running away from it or trying to mentally override it or change it or any of that, there's going to be a sting there. There's going to be pain. And that's okay. Just let that arise so that you can just keep getting closer and closer to the center of everything that's been stored in that belief and in your relationship with it. Right? And so another comment already coming through. Yeah. And if I don't believe what my family believes, they won't love me. Exactly. So that's a big thing that keeps the beliefs locked in place in the first place, is that says that once you let yourself be with this belief, that's one of the things you might notice is, okay, there's an imperative to keep this because it needs to match the people who I think I'm going to get love from. And that's why this love piece is just so important, because you can see how it naturally will just unravel everything. Because when you're completely solid in the center of your own love, then there's no need to keep bogus beliefs in order to get love from people. There's no need to make things difficult for yourself and struggle so that you can prove yourself and be worthy and be lovable, right? It just has ramifications across absolutely everything. Okay, so as you notice what arises with that belief, just keep allowing yourself to bring your attention further and further into the center of it so that whatever is all tangled up with it has the space. That's all we're doing, is just bringing attention, bringing presence, bringing space. And by way of curiosity, okay, so we don't have to hype up and find love and get love and bring love, because the love is already there. The love is already there, and it's going to show itself when you're curious. So I want to back up also and pick up some of these. So now after the rage, I see fear is in there. That's natural, because that's, as we're cutting through these layers, that's typically the next layer. Fear is in there, no relaxation yet. Okay. Oh, and then the next comment, guess what? It's completely normal, because it's the next layer too. A lot of grief came up, feeling forsaken and betrayed. Exactly. So what you'll notice is typically from the surface to the center, if you have a bunch of layered up emotions that haven't been resolved or addressed, that's what you're going to notice. You're going to notice the densest ones at the center. So at the outside, there will be pride, there will be anger, there will be rage, there will be frustration, there will be boop, 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 boop. Then you're going to hit, a drive or accomplishment or everything that's driven from lack. And then you're going to run into your fear. You're going to run into your shame, your grief, your sadness. And finally, you're just like, lay down and die, right? So wherever you're at in that cascade, if you've got a bunch of things that have been unresolved, another nice deep breath all the way down through your feet, allowing there to be an open space all through the center of your whole body, where your breath is free to move, where your breath is free to enter whatever spaces it needs to open up more space for things to move for you. And wherever you're at on there, dive into the center of it. Again, nice deep breath also right into the center of your heart. Bring that curiosity, bring that openness, and just dive in, and let's see what keeps opening up. So, okay, feels like I'm not good enough in the center. Exactly. So we're starting to get to the center, right? Because that's essentially just a denial of your own existence, a rejection of your own existence. So invite that out into the open. And so again, this is one of those things that the tendency is, the minute you get a whiff of it, let's go the other way. Let's avoid it. Let's pull out, from our baskets of spiritual magic wands. Let's find one that's going to turn it into something nice, something we would like to feel, right? And you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do any of that. It's so much easier. So the I'm not good enough, invite it right out in front. Invite it out into the open with you right now. And just take a deep breath into everything that comes with that. The pain that you haven't felt, the judgment that you've tried to stay away from, the rejection that you haven't wanted to feel the sting of. Just let it all arise and let your breath keep moving through it. And let your openness and your curiosity guide you to the center of it. Let it guide you into a complete intimacy with what it actually feels like at the inside of the center of that belief, and the center of the pain that comes with that belief, that says, nope, not you. That says, you're wrong, you're not good enough, you're not enough, all of that. And when you get deep enough to the center of it, it's not even going to have words along with it. It's just going to be a raw pain. It's going to be a raw separation. So just to let you know ahead of time, that's completely fine. So your mind doesn't have to freak out if you reach a point that you go, oh, well, I don't know what to call this. I don't have words for this. Great. Now we're really getting somewhere, because that's the deepest stuff, won't even have language attached. So another deep breath right into the center of your heart, giving yourself permission to feel what you haven't felt before. Giving yourself permission to be open to receive what you hadn't been aware of before. For you to be met by and embraced by the love that's been just waiting for you right under your nose, in the center of every single breath, in the center of every single experience, even the ones that you think are the worst, ugliest, most painful ones. Again, just stay with one breath at a time, one moment at a time. One, even if all you start to notice is the tiniest little speck of love, that's perfect. Just then get closer to that speck. Get so curious about that one little speck of love that you go dive into the center of that you get close enough to it that it becomes something that you're willing to just allow to completely consume you. All right, let's see. I'll have another. Like, if it's not hard for me, that others will somehow either be jealous or suffer more by having it hard for them and easy for me. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of offshoots of it, of this thing. That's why I told you that the number one challenge really does boil down to it's easier than you think it is. Because that's the thing. Since that feeds on itself, the more that you're in that belief and in that misunderstanding that it has to be difficult, I think you can guess what comes next. Then it's difficult. Then you're always one step away. Then you're always one more thing that you need to do or be or have before the real love happens, right? And it's just not true. It's just not true. And that's the crazy part, is that everything has just been built on that. The world's been built on that. Even spirituality has been built on that, right? Spirituality even is built on like, oh, if you meditate enough, one day, maybe not this lifetime, but maybe one day you're going to get rewarded with like the big thing, right? And it's just all not true. Okay. The most, I don't even know how to describe it. The most clear thing that was part of one of the big times that there was a big shift for me, right, was that I just fell into something you can't even describe. And what came with it was that, again, just as clear as it was, and as much as it felt completely new, it felt like the whole world had just exploded and I had exploded and like nothing existed the way I thought it did. As clear as that, equally clear was the knowing that, oh my God, it always was. It also always was this way. It was always this way. It was always there. So it was this sense of everything has changed and nothing's changed. So it was the strength of that knowing that really stuck with me of, okay, it was always there. It was always there. So you know what that means? That means there's never any hoop to jump through later. You know, everybody loves to try to focus on what they think they want to get to, some like blissful samadhi kind of place. And I've spent plenty of time there. And what I can tell you is what's even more valuable is that knowing that it's always there. The knowing that it's there when you're yelling about something that went wrong. The knowing that it's there when things look hairy and weird and crazy. Okay? Let's check back in. All right. Yeah, one more thing. Okay, well, what is the one more thing? I've got a comment, yeah, one more thing, and then there's not the rest of it. All right. Like a little girl, my spirit is excited by my noticing, and I witness a celebration, a lot of sparkles and bright colors, and all of this supported by a deep peace and well of wisdom. That's what it's about, right? So that's the foundation of it. So again, while everybody's looking for always the shiny, sexy, like dramatic experience where it's trumpets and angels and the skies are opening and all of that, nothing wrong with any of that. That's all great. But what really is going to be meaningful to you in a lasting way is that foundation of indescribable peace that is infinitely deep and completely unshakable. And it's the fertile ground that that overflowing love arises from. So there's more movement in love than there is in peace, but they are related. So the peace provides the foundation for the love to bubble up and overflow and then radiate out. Okay, but first it fills you. First it fills you to overflowing. And simultaneously, because it is just the fabric of everything when you're willing to notice it, it's embracing you. It's doing it. It's all of that. And now all of this is while you conceive of yourself as this separateness. When you're willing to dive deep enough into that, something else opens up where you recognize that this everything that you ever thought you were exists within what you actually are. So I'm going a lot of places. So I guess just depending on who all is watching right this moment is going to watch the replay. There's a lot of different levels happening. So if I'm saying something that just doesn't register, that's okay. Come back and watch the replay later. Keep moving through whatever you're moving through. And take it one breath at a time. Take it one step at a time. All right. So let's wrap up. Nice deep breath, everybody. And just ask yourself. And again, anytime I give you a question, it's not about that you're supposed to get a mental answer back that's going to be right or wrong. It's really about just asking the question. And that does the work by itself. So ask if there's love that's available to you now that you hadn't noticed. Just be curious. Be curious about what it feels like, how much of it there is, where you might notice it. Just again, letting that curiosity bubble up. That's just open and willing to notice the possibility of love where you hadn't noticed it before. So even if that means I notice I have this comment that says feeling a wall of separation blocking the love. Perfect. That's what most everybody's feeling almost all of the time, right? 99% of the world. The question is, does that mean that you're actually separate from it? Does that mean that it isn't available from you? So go get close to that wall. Walk right up to that wall and go into the center of it. Find out if that wall of separation between you and the love might also contain love itself. Find out if you, even while you seem to be on the other side of this wall of separation that you think is between you and love, see if right in the center of you, even while you're standing at that wall, is it possible there's a little seed of love, a little speck of love that you hadn't noticed? Just check. I also see muscle spasms in your back. Yeah, so just bring your breath into that space. Be open and curious to see what that's offering you and what that needs from you. And check to see if love itself is available to move in and embrace all of that space. Good. So everybody all together now. Again, whatever, no matter what it is that you thought was separating you from love, check to see if there's maybe, possibly, some love that you weren't noticing that's actually available right in the midst of that, right in the midst of the separation, right in the midst of the pain, right in the midst of all of the beliefs about what you have to do to get it and earn it, and why it's right for it to be hard and it's wrong, and all of that, right in the middle of all of it. Is there a speck of love that you hadn't noticed, that you hadn't been aware of? That's your question. So you can keep playing with that, all right? I would love to come in more often and get together with you like this. Okay? In the meantime, I don't bite. Send me a message, reach out, okay? Because it's my joy to walk with you into what you didn't even believe was available. I love guiding people there. And it's something bigger than you could have imagined. It's something that lasts. And it's so much bigger and more beautiful than you had realized. Okay? So reach out. We can do that. There's, several different options available for you depending on what's going on. So like Soul Oasis is a group program, but at the same time, it is lifetime access. All right. So you absolutely can't go wrong there. If you are more into something very intensive and very fast, we can do Remember Who You Are. That is a completely immersive one-on-one day that can just change the trajectory of your life. All right. So if that's the way you want to go, that's available too. There's, different options here. So let's see. When I notice one speck of love, it expands and becomes a celebration. Absolutely. Thank you for a midnight session of love. Yes. Thank you, everyone all around the world. Is love available to embrace this me? Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's it. That's it. So, like I said, reach out, let me know what's going on, let me know how things are unfolding for you. And because that's why I came here. That's why I'm here. I mean, as a bonus side benefit, I'm getting to have all kind of like physical experiences that are new to me, and children, and all kinds of amazing things. But really, the deciding factor was that I just love walking into this place with you and helping guide you back home to yourself, to the love that you are. So I'll see you soon, and I love you.